Hello, welcome back. Thank you. I needed to grab some water. No, we are not doing Mothership. We are doing this. So you can watch Soulslike Part 1. It's up on my YouTube channel still. But I want to explain like how I filmed it because it's important to this video. Because this video it's messy. It's a little weird. When I was making, did I say faking? Faking is close enough. What I did is I read through all the games I was going to review. Like I selected them beforehand. I read through all the games, took some notes, and then I did fake live reads, and then I transcribed the fake live reads, and then I did faker live reads of the transcription. Way too convoluted for a YouTube video, but that's what I did. The reason I explain that is because this Soulslike Part 2, it's responding to people accidentally buying into different versions of that authenticity in funny ways, and I talk about it in the video. No, this one's a lot longer. This one's like an hour long. If you 56 minutes. A lot of the people that I talked about in Soulslike Part 1, several of them have asked me not to cover their stuff in the future, so I'm also responding to that and a bunch of Twitter drama stuff. It's all kind of messy, like I said. But we're gonna watch it, and instead of just watching the whole thing in one go, I'm gonna pause after each game, as well as the interlude. Like I said, there's a big chunk in the middle, well, toward the end, where I just talk about Twitter. And like it's still important, and we'll get to that. Okay. We're start watching. That was Serial Experiments Lane. It was a track from the soundtrack. Love it. It's called Loneliness or Solitude. One of those two. I think it, depending on the translation. I'll drop it in the chat. But here's the video. This is what I get for fucking around. Hello and welcome back to Soulslike Bingo Part 2. I'm Vi Huntsman, your non-binary host who uses they-them pronouns. Thank you very much. And I'm still stuck on the Godskin Apostle. God, it's echoing in here. But we're not here to talk about video games, no. We're here to talk about tabletop games, or physical games, as they're called on itch.io. For this round of Soulslike Bingo, we have some third-party expansions, some hidden wild cards, and some heavy hitters that actually, maybe you have heard of. But can anybody get a bingo? Let's find out by rolling for our first contestant. Okay, real quick, just before we keep going, I hate how you can tell that I did not know how to take care of my hair. I know how to now. I didn't know how to take care of my hair, and I did not plan out my filming schedules. So my hair's wet here, there. It's very annoying. That's the whole comment. Sorry. Dice Souls. Dice Souls is an early access game written by Chris Bissett of Loot the Room, advertised as a zero prep Souls-like procedural dungeon exploration game. It costs £15 on itch.io for the in-progress PDFs and EPUBs, or £20 for the physical pre-order of 200 copies, which will come in a game box alongside the original soundtrack on CD. I consider Chris one of my friends and peers. I interviewed them on this channel, and I'm thanked by name in some of their releases. But they said that after watching Soulslike Bingo Part 1, they're not sure they'll like what I read here. Maybe they're right. But I've been excited for this since it was first announced, so I bought a digital copy and gave it an honest look. I'm recording this in the future, so let's hand it off to Past Vi to see what's inside. Okay, that's the other thing I was gonna say. Okay, so you may have been like, Vi, that pause was way too long. You have to cut that pause out. I know, that's part of the weird thing about this video. I was gonna pretend that it was still a live read, because the first Soulslike Bingo, I was pretending it was a live read. It definitely wasn't. This is the same. So you'll see me like move away from the microphone and do a bunch of other dumb stuff, and these like long pauses where I'm just hugely lampshading the fact that this is not a live read, even though I'm pretending it is. I don't know if the joke worked, but that's why. Also, yes, that is, that's Baja Blast. Yes, congratulations. Music you're hearing in the background is the track Campsite from Chris Bissett official soundtrack for the game. But we're not talking about the soundtrack, as cool as that is. We are talking about the core rules. Let's start with the core rules. Do the dead remember their names? I love a good roll table title. Let's roll one of these up. Rumwald, Minister of Elegance. I rolled double 2s. Oh wait, D12. Why does it start at 2? Oops! The world is dead, you stand upon its corpse. I like this. This is an interesting take on souls. So when you kill things, you absorb their souls, and then when you die, they go back into the world and they suffer for longer, which is an interesting take on it. I like that. That's really nice. Something that is less nice is that it just repeats itself in these bullet points. I got this. The world is dead. Dead doesn't mean stillness. You harvest souls, you can escape and end the cycle of death and rebirth. I already knew that. I read it on the previous page. You don't need to repeat yourself. Weapons for fighting death. See, I love a good roll table title. Boomerang, Rage. So now wait, there's no. Do they all do the same thing though? I think there's no difference. It's all flavor. That's interesting. I mean, they're descriptive enough. A slingshot with a pouch made from a devil's tongue. Yeah. I wish they were organized though. If you could organize them by range or something. Alphabetize them. I got editor brain. Editor brain says alphabetize everything. I'm gonna be scoundrel, of course. Thief class, best class. Anytime you come upon an enemy who isn't aware, narrate how you take it by surprise. I do not like being told what to narrate though. It's like reminding me to play the game, which I don't need to be told to play the game. I will definitely be doing that anyway. So usually you fail a roll if any of your dice show a 1, 2, or 3, but we've got level ups to remove failures, so you only fail on a 1 or a 2, or only on a 1, and a bunch of other stuff. Better damage, bigger dice, so that you're less likely to roll a 1, 2, or 3, or whatever. And I know this is an in-progress PDF, but that is maybe the blankest page I have ever seen in a tabletop game. Ever. It's very blank. Okay, so one of the things you can level up is the size of the die you roll. And because this is really board gamey, right? There's I thought that would be only a good thing, but I realized you have to roll it when you're trying to find new bonfires, right? When you're trying to find a new bonfire, you roll your die, add how many hit points you have left, and try to roll under the GM's map score, which is how many areas you've explored. Conceptually, that's I hope it works at the table, because conceptually that's just golden. Okay, so one of the defining elements of the Souls series is you go through an area and then you die and you go back and you have to go through it again, right? I don't think that most solo games have the mechanical complexity to sustain repeat encounters like that. So it's something you have to have a solution for. Video games, totally different beast. And Dice Souls' solution here seems to be that if you defeat an enemy enough times, then you can defeat them without rolling, which sounds kind of nice, because you get the vibe of going through the area without. It's kind of Dark Souls 2 in a way, right? So when you generate the world, it's like a point crawl thing. And so when you're at each point, though, there are multiple exits, and you pre-generate, the GM pre-generates what's through each exit, so that so it's like an actual choice. It's not just all quantum. Everything is conceivably through every exit. It's not like that. That should be a staple of random generation stuff, honestly. But there is one thing here. It says non-combat obstacles. You have to narrate your way past them, but you can just say, I crossed the river the same way I did before. But you are, of course, always free to forge a new path and explore uncharted territory. But what this is saying is that you can go through one of the other doorways that were described earlier. You can't go up the river. You're still within the bounds of the procedural generation, of course. And I just caught myself just now because I was going to say, oh, but you could be creative about it. In this area, there's a definite location that's always upriver. You don't roll for this one, it's always the water wheel or something, you know? And then I realized, I'm just thinking that would be really cool, because what I want is a discrete area. That's also why the exits being real choices is a good idea, because it's closer to being a not randomly generated world. I don't really... We'll see if it's worth it to procedurally generate this by looking at the adventure. I have now read the adventure, and I'm having a hard time organizing my thoughts about it, because the problem with Dice Souls is that Dice Souls is not bad, but I still don't exactly think what it's doing is for me. Which is a lot harder to talk about, actually. So, I might not be super on board with the direction this game is going, but I wanted to give it a fair shake, and I figured the best way to do that was to actually play it, because I also have not played many games like this, and I wanted to see if my hunches on what I would and wouldn't like, or what did and didn't work for me, would be correct. So I've got Snow here. Snow?
Can I use my dice?
Yeah, you can. I trust you. And together, her and I played through the entire first area, which is called The Crumbling Village. And it solidified a lot of my thoughts about it. So first of all, having played it, I don't think that randomly generating the area was worth the trade-off. Because, funnily enough, Dice Souls tried to solve the problem of, like, having a gauntlet of enemies that we've seen over and over again. But during random generation, I generated a gauntlet of enemies anyway. Every area that I rolled only had one exit, all the way to the boss fight. It was incredible. So that's one reason. Another reason is because, like, this game wants so hard to be so many things at once. It wants to be a board game where you fight enemies and you collect souls and you cash them in for level ups, right? It wants to be a procedurally generated dungeon game, right? And it also wants to be a world building exercise. And as much as I think those different bits can be at odds sometimes, like, the board game elements work. The boss narrative telegraphing system works. The replay function on the enemies works. We didn't quite get a feel for everything, like what it was supposed to be like to gather souls and cash them in and level up, because it was kind of boring. Like it lasted us about an hour and 15 minutes while we fudged a few rules toward the end. Because, you know, playing the game made the game itself kind of perfunctory. Like, by the end, there were moments that came up where I knew what I was going to say, and Snow knew what I was going to say, and Snow knew what they were going to say, and I knew what they were going to say. Because of how the rules work, right? So we almost didn't need to narrate. It was like we were going through the motions of playing the game, like that was playing the game. And there were a couple times it shined and felt really soulsy, but other times it just kind of fell apart. And in those moments that it fell apart, I was just wishing that it was an actual adventure with heuristic mechanisms and an actual map and maybe some NPCs. But instead it's telling me how to narrate and, like, telling me how I feel and then asking me these funny lore questions. And, you know, Snow and I had a lot of fun with those. We have an upcoming Dice Souls module now called The Catboy Hotel, where, you know, with all the world building elements we came up with.
It's little Jimmy's house. The Soggy Bottom Boys. I got isekai'd here. They were all dressed up as cat boys.
Garfield.
Oh. But it didn't really feel as cohesive as it could have been. Like I'll never get to visit the Watchtower because I rolled a gauntlet of locations, and that's just hilarious, and I think emblematic of the problems I had with the game. So that is my complicated thoughts on Dice Souls. I really liked the writing. I think the lore questions kind of work, you know? I think it very much varied the gameplay so that it wasn't just combat, which would have gotten tiring a lot quicker. Off improvising. It's interesting that in the Souls, like what the lore questions are emulating is the lore theory crafting based on snippets of lore in the game. But the thing is that those snippets are compelling because they're well written and they spark your imagination. But what the game is doing here is saying the act of playing this game is theorizing about the lore. So this is when you theorize about the lore, and this is the piece of lore you theorize about. Now theorize about it. And it just didn't work for me. That was just, I don't know. I liked the writing that was there about the world. I didn't want to be told what to theorize, you know. So, Dice Souls, I think it's possible to have fun with it, but it's definitely not the game for me. Not for me and Snow. Which means it's time to hand it back off to the bingo host character that I'm presumably going to film after I record all these reviews. So, back to them. All right. Dice Souls. So yeah, the text that was on the side, the new Dice Souls logo, that was a game on itch.io. called Dice Souls that I kept finding when I was trying to look for Loot the Rooms Dice Souls. And so I threw it in there as a joke. It took a lot of work to Photoshop that in. Anyway, it's funny because when you play Dice Souls, the computer game, the gameplay of that game, it's a gauntlet of enemies. Actually, I can probably make myself bigger. One sec. Okay. Yeah, it's a gauntlet of enemies, which is fucking hilarious to me. Because that's the problem. So I should have emphasized the word emulate a little more, because that's the big problem with Dice Souls and with so many other things here, is that they are emulating the video game. What happened is people imagined a Let's Play of a Souls game, and they saw in their imagination of the Let's Play of the Souls game a character in an area fighting the same enemies in a row, the same order, over and over, and dying and then making more progress each time. So that's what they designed their games to do, which is a bad idea. Oh, comparing this to when I talk about RUNE later in the video, I say, like, Dice Souls is not bad, I just don't think it's for me. But with RUNE, I'd say something different, and I wish it was more similar. Anyway, back to this. Welcome back. Before we assess Dice Souls, we do have a bit of catching up to do. So, to recover from last episode's mishap, Dating Souls didn't get a bingo. Dire Pulse was close, but didn't have HP. You Died was also close, but didn't have armor rules. Radical Souls had the most marks on setting bingo so far, but didn't get a bingo on either chart. And finally, Wretch was, as predicted, not very Souls-like. But does Dice Souls get a bingo? Let's see those results. Oh, no. So close. But the video's just beginning. Next up, we're going to look at a free in-progress game that no one's ever heard of, simply titled Dark Souls TCG Whip. According to the ad copy, you will manage your stamina and counter your opponent in this Dark Souls-inspired tabletop and trading card game. According to me, this is not a trading card game. It's just a card game. It has 1.5 stars on itch, and was clearly made with a Magic the Gathering card generator filled with a mixture of in-game screenshots, in-game assets, Google image search results, and plagiarized fan art. I have no connection to this game or its creator, but my original vision for this series was reviewing every physical game on itch tagged as Souls-like, because it's a surprisingly doable task. So even though this might not seem worthy of a public review, I want to give it a shot. Take it away, Passvi. First things first, if you end up trying this game, just use the tabletop simulator mod like it tells you to, and don't try the campaign mode, just go straight to trying the PvP dueling mode. And also, please tell me how it goes. I'd love to hear about it, because personally, I did everything wrong. I printed out all 167 cards instead of just buying 2 copies of Tabletop Simulator, and instead of the PvP mode, I tried the campaign mode. Guess what the campaign mode is? It's a 2-player game where one person runs a gauntlet of enemies and the other player dies over and over trying to get through it. After subjecting one of my friends to it, their preliminary review was, "This is horrifically boring." Campaign mode doesn't work, the group encounter rules aren't explained well, or they're the same as the one-on-one encounter rules, which means it's impossible to win. They retrofitted a brand new card game into the Magic the Gathering template, which does them exactly 0 favors. There are cards that don't do anything in this version of the game, but they're still in the download. Players have so many cards at every single moment, just an overwhelming number of cards in their hand, which they never discard because it's trying to emulate both the Dark Souls UI and the number of actions available to you in a real-time action video game. There's some interesting potential here, hidden deep down, but I think the best way to describe this game is it's a Google Docs game. It feels like someone threw it together with scraps from the digital dumpster that is the internet because they love Dark Souls and wanted to mess around with making card game rules. And it's bad, and that's fine. I didn't have high hopes for it, but I think reviewing something like this in public requires that I try to take it at least a little bit seriously, and even though it fell flat on its face, it's cool that it exists. It's earnest and cute, and I'll never play it again. Dark Souls TCG Whip. Why am I covering this? Why? What does it mean that I'm covering this? When I cover a tiny game like this, like I said, I have to take it at least a little bit seriously. Fuck, I hate the echo. One sec. I think the Gauntlet of Enemies thing is a rookie mistake. I think it's something that is that it sounds like a good idea, but is not a good idea if you played so many of the games that do this exact same thing, which is funny because in this case, I'm saying, hey, this is a tiny independent project that made this rookie mistake, and that's fine. I tried to be a lot nicer this time. This was like a redo of You Died, the one I reviewed in the first one. So yeah, I was nicer to it, but also it's like, it goes to show that if it's okay in this rookie project, then I'm going to be really judgmental of a lot, like bigger projects that make these same rookie mistakes, right? That's why I put the thing in the corner that was like, it looks like a Google Docs game. And then I wrote, like the Witcher RPG, because the Witcher RPG does all that same shit. It uses screenshots from cutscenes, it uses concept art, and it's wildly varying quality, and the stat blocks look like complete trash. They look horrible and not in an endearing way. And I think it is interesting to put such a tiny project in conversation with these bigger projects that are also fucking up and are not fun. So that's one thing. The other thing is like, the itch.io is like a place that people put a lot of their like work in progress stuff that's just made for them or stuff that's made for their friends. But like, yeah, itch isn't a community. It's a web store, which means that if you're making like a low stakes personal project, it is turned into a commercial venture by nature of being on itch, which is weird. But did it get a bingo? No. Next up, I'm the #1 Grant Howitt hater. Someone's got to do it to him, and that someone is me. Is it because he didn't retweet me? Is it because the Sunless Skies TTRPG deserved better? Is it because, maybe, his cis ass tried to market his game during Pride Month with a transphobic microaggression on accident? Is it because of this pose? Or is it because, when asked how he manages not to just shit out one-page shovelware games of any old idea that pops into his head, he actually said, in public, "It helps if you have a magic button that makes $2,000 drop out of the internet whenever you publish one." We'll never know. We'll never know why. But I'm the #1 Grant Howitt hater. Fucked Up Little Man is a one-page Souls-like shovelware game based on a random idea that popped into Grant Howitt's head to write a game based on someone else's tweet. He published it to make $2,000 drop out of his Patreon, and later posted it for free on Twitter. Good things first, this is a novelty game. The stakes are so low that there are no stakes. It doesn't matter if this is bad. No one's gonna care. Right? It's also nothing but a social contract, which I have little to no respect for, conceptually, but this is the right length for a project with so few ambitions. This list, it's all right. This bird is good. Everything else? At the beginning of the game, each player generates their own thematic area by rolling thrilling prompts such as wall, or passage, or walkway, which sounds too much like a type of passage to me, but let's keep reading. You use these flat nouns to generate problems for the Damned One, aka the shared player character. The game doesn't give any example problems because it's supposed to be vague before you start. That's how the game works. It's boring on purpose, don't you see? Players take turns playing the Damned One while the rest of the table adjudicates their actions, with the person across from the player, or the active player, having final say over the adjudication. That's a nice little rule. Thankfully, this game is not about dying over and over again to the same things in the same order and nothing else. It's about doing that while a weird guy laughs at you for doing it. That sounds like a fine setup for a fun time of emergent jokes. But the game doesn't just set up this joke. It also tells you that this is the joke, and that you're supposed to tell it because that's the game. You telling this joke. Like, make comments and utter your refrain often. Oh, thank God you told me that. I might have ended up uttering it infrequently. And then where would we be? The only substantial parts of this game are the tables, which are boring, worse, fine, the only good one, and horrifically unimaginatively boring. Like, you put oh, and in the same table? Come on, that's nothing. The bar is in the ground. When I read a one-page game, I want it to be self-contained, and it's like a starter set, right? It should have all the pieces, and because it's so short, I expect all those pieces to be pretty good. Like, I don't know, but not only is this game missing pieces, the pieces that are here are just really boring. I'll be the first to admit that yes, The stakes are low here, but I'm a Grant Howitt hater, and this game did not change my mind. But I've got worse news. You see this? Chuckling Scoundrel? That is patches. We have our first patches sighting, folks. Which means it's time to see if Grant got a bingo. No, of course he didn't. I'm actually totally fine with how rules light this game is, but it doesn't use its word count to do anything worthwhile. It's empty, and it's still only one page, but it's still more vapid than I expected. But it also has patches, my beloved. Someone else, please, write patches into your Souls-like game. Please, dear God, someone else. Next up, you know, more than the fact that I'm transgender and have a complex relationship with my facial hair, and more than the fact that I have to maintain my reputation as the #1 Grant Howitt hater, one of the reasons I remember that transphobic slip up so well is because Twitter emailed my call out tweet to multiple people that I know. Like, the Twitter algorithm automatically sent them an email of my tweet to announce that I was calling out Grant Howitt. That's, like, I don't want to believe that that's just a normal thing that happens in the world that we live in with each other, but it kind of just is. So that's fun. Yeah, the tables are bad. Yeah, they're horrible. But like, they're not completely useless. One sec, let me go. Like, one sec. Where's? Oh God. Here we go. Like, let's see. Swamp elevator beast. That'd be cool. It's like a mimic, an elevator mimic. That's cool. That may be cool. But then you got like Fort Passage Knight and Cemetery Courtyard Undead, which is horrible. It feels like Grant didn't do the work to be creative, so it's all on you, because that is what happened. This shouldn't be a table. There shouldn't be tables. If this is a novelty game, you're probably only going to play once. You should lean into that. It should be a party game, because then instead of this boring table, what if you and your friends like put Souls-like adjectives in a hat, and then you just draw them, and then it's like, oh, then you end up referencing places that you've been or that are important to you, and it's more personal and it's more engaging, and it doesn't have this feeling that Grant should have done the work to be more creative that ends up here. Also the trans thing, yeah, that's interesting. No, I like fucking Deconstructed Skyfarer by Grant Howitt, and oh my God, the information design's fucked. The writing is so boring. I don't know. It's just hiring celebrities to write for you, which is applicable to this next section. Oops. Next up, Runecairn Wardensaga. Runecairn Wardensaga is a beautiful hardcover book published by Exalted Funeral, following the success of the basic rule set, simply titled Runecairn. According to the ad copy, it's a Souls-like Norse fantasy RPG with quick and intuitive character creation and intense dynamic and reactive combat. It's available as a $40 hardcover, $25 softcover, or $14 PDF. For full disclosure, the publisher Exalted Funeral purchased the only paid ad I've ever done on this channel. We're not going to watch either of these in this live stream series under any circumstances. Sorry to interrupt. We're not, so don't ask. They're bad. I would explode. Used to be a mod on their fan server, and I have one of like 5 of the original Exalted Funeral staff shirts because I was like there. I was like editing. I edited Disciples of Blood and Shadow, which was like the first game they published. Also, this book is a By Odin's Beard production, and while I haven't had any financial dealings with Colin, I asked if I could please edit this book specifically, but it was too late by the time we spoke. And then I was briefly on board to edit a different book of his, but things fell through because I was taking a break from Twitter. I just want to be clear that I have the potential to have financial dealings with them. I have a financial incentive to be nice here, because this person might pay me to edit something in the future. Let's go to the computer. The first thing I want to find out is how Runecairn differs from Runecairn Wardensaga. Let's get these side by side for a comparison. There's that cool new cover art, but as I said, still no editor. Table of contents is almost identical for part 1. That's interesting. For part 2, advanced. Now wait a second. Okay, this is just the advanced rules PDF, and beneath the that's an existing adventure too. Is this just a PDF bundle? It's like someone selected these 3 files, clicked combine PDFs, and sent it to print. Like, that's an exaggeration, but that's weirdly sloppy for a big release like this. Yeah, looking at these spreads, the layout has been tweaked, and a few of the things have been moved around, but I don't know, I heard Colin say somewhere that these advanced classes are totally fine for new players, but they're over 30 pages away from the other classes. That's so silly. Like, that's just bad info design. Whatever. Let's look at the words. The words in the book. That's what we're here to do. Not here to flip through the pages. Inspired by old school essentials. That is not a good... Oh my god, these bullet points. The book opens with its design philosophy, and then bullet points of philosophy, more bullet points of philosophy, and then another third bullet page point of philosophy. How do you... Take care of my body, hydrated. Take care of myself, I deserve it. Ooh, fuck. Oh. Yes, I was nodding for a second there because yes, that's how I read it the first time, with side-by-side pages. So the format isn't authentic, but it is a reenactment. It actually happened that way. And I think an actual live read isn't super helpful. You end up not saying anything that's super substantial. Also, yes, I was kicking the beanbag. It's Ron Edwards. That's the joke. I reference it later. This came out briefly before AAA, and then was private again by the time AAA came out. Anyway. I have to ask, why isn't this a roll table of good adventure hooks? This is like the kind of thing I'd expect to find on the back of a video game box. Hunt a monstrous creature, confront a raging Jotun, and explore newly discovered lands in Runecairn Wardensaga. It's ad copy. It's not gameable. Well, okay, so charitably, maybe it's giving me a taste of things to come. Ad copy tells you what's in the book, right? But why not give me, like, I'm in the book. Why not just give me the good stuff? I already bought the book. Stop telling me how cool it's going to be. That makes me believe less that it's going to be cool. Like, okay, here's a test I love to do. One of the principles for wardens is to put traps in plain sight and let the players take time to discover a solution. That's fine. It's whatever. It's copy-pasted blog post theory crafting. Where's the good stuff? How many traps are in this game? We're gonna do Control F. We've got strapped, large trap, which I assume you buy. It's got this bit that tells you to make a spy save, but I thought it just said players don't roll to notice traps, or even to notice things about the world, but especially not traps. Okay, so I just read this. It says, so trap here means scripted ambush, which doesn't count, and is also diametrically opposed to this book's principles. Oh my god, a trap! I found one. Okay. One of the ruins encounters is an obvious rock trap. There's no mechanism, no description of how it triggers, no visual description, nothing. It's a contextless generator entry. So here I ask, during play, when the players take time to investigate it, what does the warden tell them? Well, they just make something up. So this is fucking useless. The reason this is written here is so the book can say, my game is different because traps aren't gotchas. My game is good. You have made a good purchase of a fun game. It is not saying there are cool traps in this book that can be solved with intelligent play, because there aren't. There's a scripted ambush and these 4 words. This is a running gag. It'll come back later. 2024. Beanbag joke. Let's do one more. Treat NPCs as if they're real people. Most will want to talk about things before getting violent. Okay? Show me your real people, Runecairn. There's one NPC in the adventure, a kindly old... Oh, she's Oscar of Astora, basically, right? She's the equivalent. She gives you your Estus flask, is why that is. I don't think anyone, player or GM, would assume this elderly orchard keeper who disappears after you talk to her is meant to be run as a combat encounter. Everyone else in this adventure is a monster, so let's keep looking. Oh, here we go. Bestiary, right? Remember last time? Bestiary? NPCs? Huh? Let's see. The very first entry in the Bestiary is the Cultist. Fanatic zeal burns behind the eyes. Refuses to retreat, fights to the death. There's no bouncing back from this. That's it. Review over. Holy shit. Fuck me. Are the rules the good bit? Hang on 1 second. Nope, I just read it. The rules are not the good bit. Okay, so there's this stat called Vitality. It doesn't do anything. It literally doesn't do anything. It's one of the first numbers on your character sheet. You use it to calculate your health and then you never use it again. I checked. What a slapdash. Oh my god. Okay, I'm gonna make a character. Emil. Okay, bless this table of names. I like names tables, that's good. Thank you for giving me my Nier Automata son. And also Nier son, I guess. Same character. Spoilers. The info design here flip-flops. This is literally a paragraph from 8 pages ago, but subtly worse, because this book's info design is fucked. Okay, I have a character. It's possible. Did I get everything? Speed. Okay, how do I calculate my speed? Y'all, how do I calculate my speed? Are you fucking kidding me? It doesn't tell you how to calculate your speed. I tried reading the adventure. It's embarrassingly bad, so I gave up. Should we do one more? Let's do one more. I'm sure you're as excited as I am to see if Runecairn Wardensaga got a bingo. Let's see those results. Wow, almost a blackout. And a setting bingo too. Incredible, what an honor. I feel like we really learned something here today. Yeah. So, Runecairn Wardensaga. Fucking hate the echo. Thank you for noticing earlier in the last one that I said Grant's Howitt head. That was an outtake that I left in because I thought it was funny. But yeah, Runecairn Wardensaga. There's a lot that happened in this one that I didn't explain, and I was a lot more rude. Obviously, I'm sure you could tell. Oh my god, this is not the angle. This is not the haircut for live streaming. Maybe just lean into it. I was a lot more rude because Runecairn Wardensaga is extremely successful and extremely well regarded. When I was looking this up, I wrote it down. Print copies were available in 10 different web stores, or have been over time, and it was the second and third highest rated Souls-like physical game on itch, with 70 reviews and a perfect 5 stars. And it landed Colin a writing gig with the official Dark Souls tabletop RPG, which we know how that ended up. Not Colin specifically, but the official Dark Souls RPG. Woo! And like a very successful follow-up Kickstarter. Like I don't get it. I don't know how people could get this book and then get that out of it. And here's the stuff I didn't explain, okay? The first thing that I mentioned with the bullet points, right? That's the worst thing about story gaming. It's just like, here's the philosophy, here's the principles, do it, which is a bad thing to do. Like I said, you need to put actual traps in your game. You need to put actual NPCs in your game. Speaking of NPCs, there was the refuses to retreat, fights to the death. That wording is very specific. That wording is like the Pathfinder, Adventure Path, Adventurer Society, not just Pathfinder, but like the trad gaming shit, where it's like you have to do the combat because the combat's the thing we're here to do. So we got story gaming, we got obligatory combat going against one of the other principles, and then I guess the boring system and the bullet point bestiary is the OSR or whatever we're calling it these days. And then the NPC, the only NPC that it did give us that I showed, was, I'm gonna take this down now, was the old lady who gives you your Estus flask, and the description of like interacting with her, it's literally a cutscene. She like has she shows up, she has dialogue, and then she gives you your Estus flask, and then she disappears. It's not interactable. It's a cutscene. It's wild. So it's just going through an earth-shattering identity crisis, and I don't know how. It seems like no one missed it. Even, oh my god, there's this bit in it that said, oh, you're going through this starting adventure that in the video I called, it was so embarrassing that I gave up trying to read it. There's a bit in there that says, you find a message scrawled on a wall that says, don't give up, skeleton, which made me die a little bit inside, because like the reason don't give up, skeleton is funny is because your 3D model in the Souls games, you spend a lot of time making the way they look when they're hollowing is reversed, and then you go into the game and you look like a zombie. And it's weird and it's jarring, and people are playing with that joke, and they're playing with the restricted opportunities in like a computerized messaging system. And so it's that stuff, and then it's literally the starting adventure is literally just the Undead Asylum from Dark Souls 1, like beat for beat, copy and paste. It's horrific how bad it is. I don't get it. I don't get how no one talks about this. I don't know. I don't think you can write a play-focused game and a rules-focused game and a trad game and a solo game and it's a duet game and also there's fucking merch. Like, it's a phenomenon. It's insane, and no one talks about this. I'm gonna stop rambling. We're gonna keep watching. We've already been going for 52 minutes. Oh, I did go upstairs. It's the first Exalted Funeral staff shirt. Actually, speaking of Exalted Funeral, a lot of this is their fault. So Exalted Funeral, this is kind of some behind the scenes info, but there was a time where Exalted Funeral could not stock things fast enough. They were selling out of products faster than they could stock them. And granted, they were trying to work with independent artists most of the time, which is why they took the direction they did. If an independent creator brings you something for you to publish and you literally can't keep anything in stock, your vetting process for who you're going to print a giant luxurious hardcover book print run for and send it out to 10 different web stores and print shirts for, your vetting process is going to be nothing. At least in this case, it seems that's what has happened. Their vetting process was nothing. And so they were like, quick, bundle your 3 PDFs. No, don't write anything new. We need a new book. Print 2,000 or whatever. That might be a low ball or a high ball. I have no idea. But yeah, this is also Exalted Funeral's fault. So anyway, next up, I improvised all these book reviews immediately after my first Souls-like video came out. So when this review was written, improvised. The game Rune by Spencer Campbell of Gila RPGs was still a free quick start document. All my thoughts here are exclusively about that playtest version, and may or may not reflect on the final product. I played a lot of this game, and I don't have the heart to try the full release now to find out how different it is. Apologies in advance. This video has to come out someday. Okay, I have to explain. So Spencer Campbell, the person who's in charge of Gila RPGs, has a YouTube channel, and Spencer pronounces it Gila, I think, or something similar. Does not pronounce the h in Gila, as in Gila monster. And I think that's funny, so I said it wrong, and then I had Google dub me over. It's a weird joke. Anyway, we're gonna go. Rune is a solo TTRPG inspired by Souls-like games, where emergent storytelling meets tactical combat. For the complete release, the PDF costs $15 on itch or $25 in print via the Gila RPGs store. It was funded on Kickstarter, where it made $28,705. I don't know Spencer, although I did spend 27 seconds talking about his game Corvid Court, like 2 years ago, on this YouTube channel. Let's see if Rune can get a bingo. Okay, this book is honestly really promising so far. It's cogent, it's clear, all the info's in the right place. There are a few proofing errors, but I really don't care. It's a playtest doc. Oh, fuck, I love Charlie's art. Realms may have different rules. Okay, so this is a red flag. When I read an adventure, I want an adventure, not alternate rules. Spencer, please, honey, baby, Fight, search, learn, delve. Is this mini bosses? Fight is unmarked. Yeah. So actions get marked. Fights get unmarked when you die, but the others probably stay. These ones stay marked. They're mini bosses. Yeah. Okay, so it's solving the problem of the Souls-like gauntlet, where you fight the same 8 enemies, because now you choose which of several different actions you take in the same location. That sounds great, actually. This is a board game. Once again, this is a board game, y'all. Delve is like instance dungeons or something. Am I using that word right? I guess I should just say dungeons. they're dungeons. Oh my god, lore stat. This game loves lore and runes. It just sounds like a catchy way to drip feed content to solo players, right? I'm tentatively on board with that. Realm clock. Okay, so timekeeping. I was gonna ask if you could shake off a death curse by traveling 4 times in a row, because it sounds like you could do that. You just travel 4 times in a row, but I guess that if it means a location is removed, you wouldn't want to just like waste time like that. Okay, here's the combat rules. Character means PCs and enemies. Okay, so you use the word combatant then. Editor brain loves the word combatant. Okay, so I can imagine doing some cool things with this D6 pool stamina system. Like a light armor set could have like a roll option that works with low numbers, whereas a heavy armor set requires a higher number to roll that you'd rather assign to your sword. Maybe that sounds kind of cool. Damage is resolved at the same time. Okay, also cool, because you can actually anticipate actions. You can react because you do it at the same time. But the D6 pool means you can't, like, you have limited options. You can't control all your outcomes. You have to bide your time or make choices. Yeah, I'm so on board so far. Let's play the example adventure. It's bad. Fuck. Oh. Like, okay, combat works. The rules are clearly written. They're written clearly. And after writing down, I just had to write down the 5 steps of combat in one place, and it flowed just great. It actually worked. I was making genuine little choices. It was really fun to survive by the skin of my teeth, which happened several times. Being way over here felt very far from home, which was like a fun Souls-like feeling to have in a solo tabletop game. The grid system, it lasted a surprisingly long time before falling apart. Specifically in the final boss fight, I realized that the movement system is just completely borked, even with the starting item that lets you move at least once every turn. Having multiple actions in each location was great, but there were times I had to redo fights, and as usual, redoing fights was just not very fun. I'm not grappling with huge mechanical depth here to see a variety of outcomes. Like, you can't even switch weapons. You can't do that. So I couldn't try new loadouts either. But I played the starting adventure from start to finish. Kinda. Because my starting loadout was literally incapable of ever beating the boss. So I had to cheat and pick up new weapons, and then I won. But I liked it. Kinda. Because, like, the writing, there's writing, but it's not good. There's one location that's like, boathouse, a house lies on the coast. There's also a boat. It gets a little better than that, but not much. It's just kind of boring. But you know what? I don't really care. So I'm going to pause here because we're going to talk about each of the subsequent things after I talk about them. Or rather, after I talk about all of them. When I played a lot of RUNE, I was also playing Elden Ring. I was fighting the Godskin Apostle in Caelid, with an unleveled character. And just dying over and over and over again. And what I would do is when I would get frustrated, I would go back and play some RUNE. And then when I got frustrated with RUNE, I would go back to Elden Ring. It worked really well. But yeah, RUNE itself. RUNE made like $30,000 on Kickstarter, if I recall. Right after, like, several months after Elden Ring came out. So it's like capitalizing on a popular video game. Like, it should be obvious what it's doing. And it's actually the #1 highest rated Souls-like physical game on itch. But yeah, the reason that, like, I felt like the rug got pulled out from under me because people on YouTube, people on TikTok, there was a Gizmodo article, there was a Dicebreaker article. It won an Indie Groundbreaker award, and Indie Groundbreaker does board games. But, like, they all talked about it in terms of tabletop role-playing. Which does not make sense, except for the fact that that's what Spencer Campbell calls it a role-playing game, but it's not. It's a board game. It doesn't have emergent storytelling in the way that tabletop roleplay does. It has gameplay, that's an important distinction. And then what else? The YouTuber, I forget their name, said that RUNE is for people who love Into the Breach, Citizen Sleeper, and even BattleTech, which is not true, I would say. It's in terms of solo board games, which it is a lightweight solo board game. There's not huge mechanical depth, like I said. And it was really well balanced, actually. Like, compared to the other stuff, it was really well balanced. But it was so well balanced that I didn't die a single time until the final boss, when it was mechanically impossible for me to win. So I don't think that is for people who love tactics games. I don't think this is going to be a hit for them. And then also, before we get into the third-party stuff, it was so weird to play it and then realize that I was excited to play these like third-party games before the third-party expansions before I realized it was a board game, because RUNE said that it's a legacy game as well, which means you keep items between realms. You'd have to make that stuff work in tabletop roleplay, but if it's a board game, like, it should be balanced. Like, that's what board games do. They are balanced. Theoretically. Like, you can't just port the way that we collaborate in tabletop roleplay into board games and just hope it'll work, you know? I guess you can do that, actually. Anyway. Because the secret, real reason I chose this one to read is because there's actually a community of people writing adventures for this thing. That's amazing. I love adventures. But do you know how many adventures... Do you know how many adventures have been in the series so far? There was Radical Souls. That was an adventure. There was Exhumed's Linear Dungeon. And Runecairn's Linear Dungeon. I would edit that statement at this point in time. Radical Souls is a Roku screensaver. That's what it is. It's not... Like, is it an adventure? It's a Roku screensaver. And now, RUNE's starting adventure. Everything else has been a system, or a system for procedurally generating an adventure, which, as we've seen, doesn't count. I really wanted to play these adventures, so I did. I beat this starting adventure and then tried 4 more third-party adventures. My second adventure was called Cracks Betwixt, a $3 realm by Uigaron. It was pretty bad. I beat it in one go and I didn't really feel anything. They tried to do interesting things with the grid spaces that like push you around, push you and enemies, but the movement system is already super flimsy, so it didn't work. It just made it so you had fewer choices than usual, which were not very many choices to begin with. But you know what? This is what happens when you say all realms have different rules. You get new realms with shitty rules. Dreadmance. Next up, I played Dreadmance, one of 3 realms bundled in the Binary Atlas RUNE Realm collection by Binary Star Games, which I paid $10 for. This one also tried to do interesting things with the grid and with timekeeping. Overall, it was cool. It felt gothic. It was trying some interesting things. It did not overstay its welcome, but only because it was very short. Next one. We'll come back to the bundle in a second. But next, I played Cog Realm of the Mechanist by Like a Small Press, which, I don't know. I don't feel like I gave it a fair shake. It tried to do a lot of brand new things. Like, it had 2 new weapon systems, like mini-boss fights that had, like, cool narrative intros. It opened new paths between areas. You had to, like, bank your best rolls in the weapon and then use them later. But also it can break and you drop it when you die. So there's a corpse run now. It's all very thematic, but it did not feel great in practice because I like to use the big numbers on my flame hand, pyromancy ability, right? Not to store them in the item for later. In the end, I didn't have the heart to fight the first mini boss because I was getting really tired of RUNE and I gave up. So that's all. That's all I got for that one. Sorry. It was at this point that I was about to put RUNE down forever. And then I opened up the Crag Cliff Reformatory by Binary Star Games and saw patch notes. And I thought to myself, God damn it. Someone made this for a playtest game. Other people played it, gave feedback, and the writer integrated that feedback into the adventure. It's like, hey, I paid $10 for this. And it seems like some care and effort actually went into it. And as hard as it might be to tell at this point in the video, I fucking love tabletop role-playing games. Okay? Let's try to keep that in mind, please. And even if this
is also a board game, not exactly a tabletop role-playing game. I wanted to believe. So I told myself I would play one more realm. And folks, it's good. There's like 9 more RUNE Realms that have come out since I wrote this. I haven't played those. I don't know anything about them. But at the time, I called this the only good RUNE Realm. It's the best one, no contest. It's the best thing I've covered in this entire video so far, I think. First of all, I think its name is a reference to Thief, the Dark Project, which instantly does things to me. But there's also good writing. This person knows how to be brief. They know how to write something soulsy. And, you know, they fixed the fucking game. I mean it, okay? You want to hear what they added? Random encounters, unlockable loops, random loot, an overarching sense of urgency, empty rooms. There's moments of exploration without combat. Combat that ramps up. Encounters that permanently go away. Paths that open up. You can change your loadout with the weapon loot. Also, those weapons are rebalanced, and the ones I tried felt great. I actually felt like I was, like, rolled past an attack. Like, it felt like it. It was awesome. The glaring exception to this is the two-handed Radiant Zweihander, which is literally broken. Not like in a good way. It does not work. Okay? That one's terrible. But other than that, it's like, I don't know, they added all the good stuff. If I were Spencer, I would have hired this person or people to write an official adventure, because clearly they know what's up. Also, remember those patch notes? The writer was fine-tuning the timekeeping, because, like, and listen, we're getting into nitpicky territory, but I don't think the core game's realm clock thing is very useful. But I definitely don't think any clock should have 20 segments. Like, it's silly. Look at this. Clocks are dumb. Fuck clocks. Saying your game has clocks is just a buzzword for bullet point marketing, okay? It doesn't mean anything.
It means, remember Blades in the Dark? Don't you like Blades in the Dark? That's what it actually means. Anyway.
So I just used tally marks. But listen, 60 turns is the right length for this adventure. It was fun to feel like things literally changed around me. I didn't have to roll anything, but the visual of climbing on the outside of this crumbling hanging tower was cool. It was good. I got so close to beating the game. I got to just where I was like on my way to fight the final boss, and I didn't want to lose this feeling of having fun with Rune, and so I just kind of like stopped playing at that point. I didn't beat this adventure because I just wanted to be happy. I just fuck.
I don't think I really have much else to say. Like, it's actually, you should buy the Binary Atlas Rune Realm collection and play Crackcliff Reformatory if you like Rune. Or just to see what I'm talking about. I don't know. It's cool. I checked it today, actually. It's like 12:50. They added another adventure bit. Fuck this goddamn echo. Okay, there's 15 minutes left of the video. But this next segment is the like weird commentary on the scene and reactions to critique and et cetera, et cetera. So we're gonna watch that now. Here we go.
Fuck. So listen, this is my fourth and final annual Twitter drama video. Post flame war in chat. Anyone. Everyone. Go for it. It's your last chance. I have my problems with the first Souls-like video. I have problems with all my videos. I think it would have done a world of good to mention my goal was to review every Souls-like physical game on itch. That would have helped set the stakes better. I should have complimented this zine's art. And I should have called Brian and Evelyn my friends, because on a personal level, not saying that ended up feeling kind of pointed in the context of a surprise negative review. And publicly, it made it seem like I only gave good reviews to people I knew. Like, newsflash, I've been in small Discord servers with these two for years. I should have complimented Udide's art and layout some more. And maybe even suggested they lean into the narrative portions, because those were the best parts. I could have said, this table isn't the best. I could have put an exhumed class and a wretch class side by side to show why I like one more than the other. But I didn't want to be defensive about my positive reviews, and I didn't want to chew my viewers' food for them. So I published the video because, hey, It was late August, and after a year where I scrapped thousands of words and hours of finished footage, just scrapped it. I was just happy to have a finished video that I was proud of with an identifiable, reproducible style. And then, I don't know how to really properly convey what happened next. Multiple creators told me they didn't want me to cover their stuff in the future. I watched someone burn an incredible amount of their own professional credibility in a very short time. Twitter got wrapped up into another anti-critic frenzy. One of my friends ended up getting compared to QAnon. I got misgendered a couple times. I got DMs from randos telling me my video was bad for the community. I was criticized for having a Patreon. People talked to me about my public image like I'm a media corporation who really should have run this by my PR team. Like for the video's questionable optics, as if I'm not a niche YouTuber with fewer than 2,000 subscribers. I was told that I should never give negative reviews to small creators, free games, or in-progress games, and that it ruined my pastiche of Iron Pineapple because they don't do those things, except actually they do all those things. I was accused of reading games in advance so I could cherry pick ones that would be easy to dunk on, and then later of not reading the games in advance because I'm lazy. People were talking about that damn video for over a month after it was released. In the slurry, there was actually one piece of good feedback. I was probably too rude to You Died, and I'll add, not rude enough to Caltrop Core. But beyond all that, there was this implication under almost all of the feedback that the real problem was that I gave negative reviews at all. No one said it better than Discord user Beep Test, who said, "Not gonna lie, it's been forever since I've actually seen a negative review of ... anything TTRPG ... in any way for anything that isn't D&D. It's like a cold water head dunk." And they're right. For context, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of tabletop games, and they're more popular than ever. Yet the odds someone will cover your game are basically zero. For anyone, like even big publishers and huge Kickstarter successes, you can usually count your coverage on one or two hands, if you're covered at all. I use the word covered because I'm not just talking about reviews. That number includes flip-throughs, unboxings, how to play videos, written articles, actual play, listicle mentions, even paid ads. So imagine I critically look at a free, in-progress indie game no one's ever heard of. That game is now in the top 0.01% of games that will ever get coverage. And I'm treating it more seriously than most AAA games get treated. Even I'll admit, that sounds weird. Now imagine I also say that game is bad. You see why no one wants to do that? You see why I'm not supposed to do that? So what is a reviewer to do? What am I supposed to do? I watched a review of Runecairn Wardensaga the other day in preparation for this video. Well, I don't know, it says review in the title, but they just talked about how the rules work. So it's not a review in my book, according to my definitions, but let's ignore that for a second. I want to paraphrase how they talked about vigor, vitality, and resilience. For reference, vitality is the stat I talked about that gets used once during character creation and never gets used again, right? Let's see how they talk about it. I'm paraphrasing. These stats are one aspect, I think, at the very beginning that sound really complicated before the game takes the math out. It's one area where, when you first get started, it may be a little slow to learn, like all games, which isn't a drawback, I'm just being fair. I'm sure it would only take a few rounds to learn anyway, not a drawback, I'm just noting it. That one criticism is couched 15 times. This is the only negative thing they say in the entire review. Now, negativity is not a virtue in and of itself. And I'm going to say that again. Negativity is not a virtue in and of itself. But since I'm not restricting myself to corporate games, and I'm also not making paid ads, how to play videos, listicles, or unboxings, I'm going to be honest when a book is bad. If I can't do that, you shouldn't trust a word out of my goddamn mouth. Side note, this is why you shouldn't trust a word out of anyone's goddamn mouth around here. When I criticize a book here on this YouTube channel, I'm using my expertise to examine the book's execution alongside my very particular personal tastes. Okay? Which I'm paid to have. For example, I want adventures. I do not want systems. I want good info design. I do not want bullet points. I want maps. I don't want generators. I want books to have good writing. I want mechanisms to be rules light and stay out of the way. You see why I liked Radical Souls? You see why Skull of Your Mentor pushes Wretch over the edge to being better than Exhumed? Why scares interlopers out of their caves is better than refuses to retreat, fights to the death? Oh, fuck. Robert Blank 5206 knows what's up. They asked me to find where they can find Dating Souls because it looks like a game they'd like to play, even if it missed the mark for me. That's cool. That's great. Robert, I hope you have fun. Y'all should be more like Robert. And also, the time to post Flame War has ended. We are now going to review one more game. Twitter drama section over. Because just like last time, this has been way too negative for my taste, and I want to end on a positive note.
Okay. Aiming to end on a positive note is not a great strategy. Flame War, yes. I always, whenever I post Flame War in chat, I just get surprised for some reason that people comment and post Flame War in chat and the comments. I don't know why I'm surprised. That's the logical thing to do. You ruined your pastiche of Iron Pineapple. Iron Pineapple covers student games, alpha games, pre-release, all sorts of stuff. I think what actually happened is we have a scene that is extremely sensitive to critique. We saw that literally the other day. I posted the Cowboy Bebop video. There was a person who commented. They said, "Hey, this is just dunking. You're just dunking. Like, oh, they made $500,000. I get why you're criticizing them. You're just dunking." And I'm like, So like, who can we critique is the question then. And they answered it in their second half of their first comment. They said, I don't remember the wording they used, but they said that targets that are eligible for critique are D&D and fascist edgelords, which we do have in the scene. We do have those. We have both of those. We have D&D and we have fascist edgelords. But that's it. That's the only people... not Magpie, not like Runecairn Wardensaga. Like, that's a huge success that gave someone like success in other areas of the hobby. Like, but we have to couch a single criticism 15 times and not even portray it accurately. Like, it's just very scary to think about the implications of that, because they're here. We're looking at them. It's this huge sensitivity to anything being critiqued, and there being an utter dearth of critique in the scene. Yeah, that's a whole nother topic though. I do want to say though, it's really funny how I said I should have been more rude to Caltrop Core, and then I go on to give a positive review to What's So Cool About Monster Blood. What? That doesn't make sense. And we're gonna talk about that after that segment. So here we go. Oh, and let's see if Rune got a bingo. Did it? Close. As usual, those downward diagonals are really popular. What's So Cool About Monster Blood by G. Michael Truran of Bad Quail Games is a rules-light, Bloodborne-inspired game for tracking and slaying beasts, unraveling mysteries, fearing the moon, and exploring the bloody ruins below the city. The PDF costs $3 on itch.io, but a physical copy only costs $6 via bad-quail.gumroad.com. It's a hack of this other game called What's So Cool About Outer Space, which is by my friend and patron Jared Sinclair, who has sent me review copies in the past. Even though this has been for sale on spearwitch.com in the past, I bought this particular game at least twice. So, just in the spirit of disclosing more of my connections than is realistic and anyone does, because Flame War in chat. On to the review. All right. You'll need people, a quiet space, snacks and drinks, dice, paper, and pencils, and these rules, probably. Okay, immediately I'm on board. This book's telling me I don't need it, now that's my kind of game. I'm being dead serious. Here's the keywords you switch out when hacking the game. It says, the dreamer describes the city's suspicious citizens, dour weather, and the beasts that stalk the night. That's all right. This page is a surprisingly concise synopsis of Bloodborne's story. That's helpful. I have the benefit of having already played a few sessions of this game, so I'm gonna go way more in depth than usual, but I have to work something out loud. Whenever one of my players makes a character,
The times they did, they always got kind of stumped by the prompt, a clever weapon. Mind you, we've all played Bloodborne, so it would have been easy to just go on the wiki or remember one and say, oh, I'll take the threaded cane or whatever, right? The book could have done it too. It could have just taken the items out of the game and put them in the book. It'd be really easy to do, but it didn't. And I'm of two minds about that. On the one hand, I am used to seeing weapon lists in tabletop games. Since choosing a weapon is part of character creation, I expect to see a weapon list. They didn't have to steal ideas from the game either. They could have made up their own original weapons. That'd be even cooler. But on the other hand, every weapon my friends made was super cool and original and personal to them. They didn't choose one from the game. It's like the place in Bloodborne is called the Hunter's Workshop. It's where hunters create their own weapons that suit their own needs. Personally, I'm the kind of player who would probably just go to the wiki. But it seems like the lack of a list here was a good thing for my players' creativity. I spent a long time on those 3 words just now. That was about 3 words, because there's a lot of stuff like that here. A grim and tragic name, a clever weapon, an occult tool, a memento from a beast, another cool thing. Speaking from experience, once again, my players had a lot less fun with these, except for their names. The names were easy to come up with. Thinking up an occult tool wasn't as fun as creating their own Bloodborne weapon. This would be a cool place to see more useful prompts, like world building. Like Bloodborne itself mentions the powder kegs, right? They're a faction of unpredictable hunters who love explosions. Why not come up with some cool factions of your own, whose occult tools or clever weapons have a similar style, so that you can like guide the player's creativity by hinting at what kind of hunter they might be. Like it'll influence their personality too, you know? That's cool stuff. You don't have to actually give examples, but like we can find other ways to give prompts. But so far, this book's central ideological claim seems to be that the interesting parts of play aren't found in the book. They're found in your imagination. I'm cool with that, but there's room for cool things in your book too. Okay? Continuing on, the core roll is 2d6 versus 8, plus or minus 1 for each advantage or disadvantage. For example, an enchanted hide or long gangly claws and you're bleeding out are cute examples, but that also means that there's no HP, and y'all, this bingo card is looking bleak. When you expose your mind to the moon's dark insight. So these 2 things let you roll a special d6. But if that d6 is one of the higher 2 that counts towards your total, it affects this meta currency thing, and I gotta say that I can tell this is tacked on. The wording here and on the next page, it's just a little bit clunkier than usual, and it stands out. The rule's fine. My first note was that once again, I'd want examples, but on the next page, having Gnosis is such a burden that inspires unreasonable fears, convictions, and idiosyncrasies, such as, right? Such as, I'm so happy to see those 2 words. Here are 6 new fears the moon might give you. Here are 6 bestial aspects. Mwah! How hard was that? Bro, all of the owls died in 1886 due to Gehrman killing them and replacing them with spies that are now watching us. Another good line here, when you act against your moon phobia, it says you have disadvantage when acting against them. But on the bestial aspects page, it says you take disadvantage when your bestial aspect would get in your way, such as when dealing with townsfolk. Once again, lovely little example. I think I'm falling in love with the words such as. I don't know. That's might be a little dangerous, but I'm feeling it tonight. This is nice and simple. Fail forward stuff, rule 0, all that. More Gnosis and Morphis stuff. It's just telling you when you get advantage or disadvantage, and honestly, I don't know, it kind of takes up more space than what it is. Aha, okay, here we go. My favorite 2 pages in the book. What's happening right now, and what terrible beast do we face this night? You can tell the author really liked Jura, because here he is again. This is mostly just a reference, but I love that he's specifically holed up in the city's highest tower. That's a nice detail. As usual, I don't like the ones that end in questions. For whom does it kill? For what purpose? Like, please, just tell me. When I want to make something up, I'll make something up. When I want the book to tell me, I come to the book, right? That's what I use the book for. On a positive note, though, I think my favorite entry here is the legendary Horned King has stirred from its usual hunting grounds and now stalks the aqueducts that provide clean water to the city. If not removed, there will be terrible consequences. I like that one. That's one. I love imagining Bloodborne aqueducts. Also, tiny nitpick, but this sounds like a beast will be hunting tonight, not a thing that's happening right now. I don't know what the distinction is there, so I don't know. I wouldn't actually roll on either of these. I would just pick them from the list. But anyway, I do love the info here. It's a fun prompt. And that's the book. That's the end of it. That's and you know what? And that's the video too. well, that's the end. Monster Blood definitely did not get a bingo. But in the end, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's okay. Maybe it's not all about the bingos. Maybe there are more important things. I hope you enjoyed this video. I don't know if the next one will be Souls-like, or if it'll be more of a spiritual sequel, or if I'll do some other stuff. I'm not billing patrons, by the way. Thank you to my patrons, by the way. I'm not billing them until that huge video I worked on for all of 2022 comes out. It looks like this.
Alienation.
Huh?
Alienation.
So if you want free access to a bunch of stuff, just join now, because I won't be billing for a while, and it bills monthly, not when you join, so that's fun. Speaking of which, thank you to my patrons, as always. I already said that. Of course, thank you for watching. I hope I get to continue covering small, cool tabletop role-playing games, despite everything. Thank you again. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Thank you for coming. Good night.
There it was, folks. That was our last one today. But I do have some things I want to mention before we end. I want to talk about what's so cool about Monster Blood, because it's not very good. Echo, go away. See, I know how to fix that. One sec. Yeah, I'm not muted. Okay, no echo. Perfect. But first, I'm gonna draw a little sword here. We have our own little bonfire here. Okay. It's interesting. I was using the phrase central ideological claim, which is a lot of big words for a little game like that. And the reason is because it's based on the game written by Jared Sinclair. And so I can tell there's a lot of layers going on there. And I am biased. I do like a lot of Jared's writing and ideas. So explaining the bit where I said that I was not rude enough to Caltrop Core, which is weird because then I'm nice to what's cool about Monster Blood, is because the problem with Caltrop Core is it's selling you this like intellectual property-ified rule set. It's saying, hey, hack these rules and then give me credit, and then just like raking in the clout that comes from the increased SEO for the phrase Caltrop Core. And then you can say, oh, I made Caltrop Core. And then it's just like, you can't copyright rules, which is a good thing. You should still be polite and credit people you get ideas from. I think there's a good balance to be found there. But like, it's a person giving you permission to do something you didn't need permission to do, and giving you something that is not actually very useful for a lot of situations. But then the problem with What's So Cool About Monster Blood is it's based on What's So Cool About Outer Space by Jared Sinclair, like I said. Someone else hosted the jam, the Whiskhouse jam, where they were like, hey, treat this like a Mad Libs form, right? When someone says hack Caltrop Core, or they say hack What's So Cool About Outer Space, they're saying use the rule set like a template, like in a Mad Libs template, and replace the keywords, which is itch.io game jam philosophy, where you make rule sets, which I don't love for tabletop role playing specifically, because as we look at this lovely little thing right there, I wrote down the things I said in the video. I said I want adventures, not systems, good info design, not bullet points, maps, not generators, good writing, and if you have rules, I want them to be rules light and stay out of the way. The rules in What's So Cool About Monster Blood, they are rules light. They do stay out of the way. But they don't really, there's nothing else really going on in the book. Like I said, give me, like, there are no, what was the wording they used? There are no mysteries or bloody ruins or suspicious citizens in the book. And so it's the same thing. That's why I'm mad at myself for being so nice to Monster Blood, because it's the same thing that Runecairn Wardensaga did. It said, oh, I have mysterious citizens or whatever, suspicious citizens, and then didn't give you suspicious citizens to put in your game. They just said, make it, and then you make it, and then the game design, which is the thing that I have been railing against since AAA, or maybe before that. It's also nothing but a social contract again. It's so that you can go to your friends and say, we should play What's So Cool About Monster Blood. It's like Bloodborne. Or if your friends are like, I want to play something like Bloodborne, you can be like, oh, what's so cool about Monster Blood? Which I don't. That's what we call a social contract, right? I think that you need a lot more than that for it to become useful. And also, like, my friends have roleplayed Bloodborne without needing permission from a book. I think that's important. Yeah, it was really interesting how I latched on to the phrase highest tower. That's literally 2 words. That's nothing. There's no meat on this bone. But you can still use it. That doesn't mean it's useless. It'd be a landmark probably. Falling from it is deadly. That's cool. We got risk. We've got, it's the highest tower, so there are other towers. There's a huge blank space inside the tower that you have to fill now, which isn't great. That's probably everything. That's 2 words. We got 4 details, or rather 3 details and a blank space that now I have to do something with. Like when I say I want adventures with good info design on maps with good writing, and if you have to have mechanisms, make them rules light. Like you have to have well-written ideas that are connected. Like if you want to make a space that people can explore, and I mean that in multiple ways, you need to have well-written ideas that are connected in like physical geography and social geography. Things need to have consequences elsewhere, and they need to be connected. That's why I want maps also, so that the physical geography is put down. So let's do that. We should be doing more of that. Thank you for watching. I think this is going to be the last bit of the live stream. I'm going to post this to YouTube also. Who said it? Who said it? For this, you have to thank Let's Go Gambling. I'd like you to speedrun smoking a brisket. No. Oh, here we go. I'm not into this whole dunking on people for the lulz thing, except for Wotsy and fascist edgelords, of course. That's so sad. Okay, Marissa Cosmos, fellow transgender. They said, "Oh yay, video, fake live stream next, please. Since you said no mothership." Yeah, we're not gonna do Arc or Apothecaria, and we're not gonna do mothership either. But the first 2 because they're bad, and the last one because I'm obstinate, and I'm working on a secret project. So thank you to Marissa Cosmos, trans rights. Thank you all for watching. I'm gonna check my Patreon now. I haven't checked my Patreon in months, years, over a year. Crazy stuff. This is fake. This live stream's been fake all along. This is all fake. This is all an elaborate ruse.